Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo here and welcome back to my channel Apollo Extra. Today I'm back with the next part of the ongoing series on my channel, What If Naruto Had Children with Athena and Aphrodite. And yeah guys, as you guys can see, I'm making this in my own voice because many of you guys commented that I should continue to make content in my own voice. So that is what I'm gonna do from now on. So I hope you don't mind, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel, and follow me on my main channel for Naruto What Ifs as well. Now, without any further ado, let's begin with our today's story. Our story continues. Olympus, Temple of Hera. As the Queen of Olympus, Hera had the second largest temple on Olympus. Although she would usually stay in the Temple of Zeus to be close to her husband, she would still return to her own place on occasions. Decorated with the statues of peacocks and staffs of lotus flowers, the gargantuan structure marked her greatness and divinity. Its widespread hallways would be constantly used by the hundreds of handmaidens of the queen, all of them carrying trays of offerings and sacrifices of mortals to show the goddess. Located on the epicenter of the temple was Hera's sacred bath, a pool of the most sacred water in the universe and the very definition of purity. Hera would take one of sacred baths every year to celebrate her marriage to Zeus. It was perhaps the most sacred cradle of feminine grace in existence. Sorry, but no, said the Queen of Olympus without hesitation. With her pretty hands collapsed together, Aphrodite pouted at the queen. Please, Hera. Her charm speak was on full blast, which would probably work very well on all the male gods, but not very effectively on the most powerful goddess. It's not June and you won't need it until next year. Just let me use it this one time, please. The queen sighed as she continued to water her lotuses. This sacred bath is only for me and my marriage to Zeus. She looked back at the most beautiful goddess and gave her a stern look. I'm sure whatever escapade you have planned to do with either of my sons is none of my business, but neither of them would care about you taking this bath. It's not of Ares or Hephaestus. Aphrodite glared at the queen and flared some of her power. Neither of your stupid sons deserves something like this. Hera would have been angry, but after so many years of dealing with her disappointing sons, she was more curious than angry. She looked at Aphrodite with one eyebrow raised. In the millennia she had known the bubbly goddess of love, she had never seen her act so angrily or quickly. She would usually just nag to someone until she got what she wanted, but never would she flare her power and glare. Needless to say, the queen was interested. Then who is it? Aphrodite slowly calmed herself down and slowly approached Hera. I really need your help with this. Her hands gently held onto Queen's arms as she led over to a long couch. I never felt like this before. Hera sat down with the younger goddess and pressed her lips. Assume you are talking about some man you love? Aphrodite nodded and bit her lips. I am the embodiment of love and lust, and I have been in love for thousands of times before, but I never felt like this before. She placed her hands on her lap and looked down at them with a sigh. Even with Ares and Adonis, I never felt so warm. Hera was genuinely surprised at what she was hearing and just remained silent. Out of all the fathers of my children, he is the best ever. I could feel the love he has for my little Lacey, and it's incredible. I can say that it rivals the love that Lady Rhea has all for you. Hera smiled. I'm happy that such a father exists in this world. Aphrodite smiled back. Most of the fathers of my children and the fathers of the other gods and goddesses' children would feel burdened to some degree, but he didn't. When I dropped the baby off to him, he just smiled at me and held on to the bundle like it was the most precious thing in the world. Hera smiled at the warm smell of her fellow goddess' face, one she was not used to seeing ever so. And when I watch him play with my daughters, I just want to get this warm feeling in my heart, and it makes me want to go and be with him, she said after thinking for a bit to voice her words. Wow, Hera whispered with a soft smile. I think for the first time in your immortal life, you have felt the love of a family. The kind of a love wife would feel for her husband. The queen knew perfectly that her crippled son could never give Aphrodite such strong emotions, and neither could be her disappointing warmonger of a son. This is a part of my domain, so it's no surprise that you never felt it before. The love of a married couple with children is completely different from your usual love between two couples. To be able to see that man you love and adore and take care of the product of your relationship with him is the most precious form of love. Hera gave a soft chuckle and placed a soft hand on the younger goddess's face. This form of love is the one I yearned for since I was a young goddess, and I am quite surprised that you are so lucky to find it so easily. I can assure you that none of the gods or Olympus could give you something like that. Aphrodite was staring at Hera with wide eyes, with her lips parted away. A family? She had thought about it before, the day she married Hephaestus, but that had been a bitter disappointment. There was a moment she thought that she had felt akin something to that when Ares was born, but when Ares didn't even bother showing up at the birthing, she knew it wasn't it. It was surprising and slightly horrifying to realize that none of her previous lovers had been good fathers. This is something very precious, especially for us goddesses. Hera had seen many mortal of couples with perfect little families and an amount of love that made her even jealous. No immortals could act so lovingly when they knew they could never die. That was the one thing the mortals had that the gods didn't. I don't see it very much in the mortal world, and almost never for goddesses. I understand what you're saying, Aphrodite whispered as she slowly looked up at the goddess. I see my husbands and wives trying to preserve this kind of love and fail at the end. This kind of love can be very short-lived, but a very strong kind. I can say that my marriage did not bring me anything close to it, but I never really felt this kind of love. Until now, said Hera with a smile. That made Aphrodite's eyes widen again, but also made her smile. This is not lust or anything of a physical extraction of sort, continued Hera. This is a bond between a mother and a father and the love they share between the child they have. This is the most basic and natural kind of love, but also one of the most rare, especially for us immortals. The queen chuckled and shook her head. Honestly, you are the last person I would expect to have a love of this sort from. Well, I don't think I'm the only one, Aphrodite whispered as she looked away. Athena feels the same way. I could feel it. Wait a minute, said Hera with her hands rose. Is this the mortal, the one with you and Athena both had a child with? The one Demeter told me about? The goddess sighed and nodded. Yes, it is. Hera laughed a little and smiled with a sigh. I guess you both desire the same kind of love, the love of a family and the warm and secure feelings that come with it. You may have lots of experience with love and lust before, and Athena may firmly believe that the meeting of the minds is the purest form of love, but subconsciously, the notion of the functional and loving family is irresistible to both of you. The queen simply smiled and nodded happily. I would know this is my domain. Aphrodite bit her lips and nodded. I believe you. Hera stood up from her seat and returned to watering her lotuses. Feel free to use my bath. Aphrodite looked up at her in shock, clearly surprised. I can make this one exception. Hopefully after this, the goddess of love will be more lenient towards the love lives between of husbands and wives. The most beautiful goddess stood up and smiled. Don't worry, I definitely will. Link break. When are we going to buy our costumes, Dad? Cried Lacey with a large pout on her face, making Naruto smile. I want to buy a pink princess dress and a tiara. Annabeth rolled her eyes and shook her head. You go as a princess every single year, Lace. She held on to her dad's hand and tried to drag him as he walked faster. Why don't you just use the same one as last year? You haven't grown that much. Lacey stuck her tongue out at her sister as she continued to tug at her dad's hands. Shut up, Annie. She glared at Annabeth, but she looked more cute than threatening. You pick up all the ugly costumes, so what do you know? Shush, girls, Naruto sternly said. No fighting. It was mid-October and the very popular Halloween was approaching, just like the last 2 years from when Lacey was old enough to want to dress up. The young Namikaze daughter would constantly beg her daddy to go buy her costumes. She went as a princess every year and her dress would be pink every year. But she also wanted a new dress every year. Naruto didn't mind. Lacey was just acting like her mother. Well, I'll go buy our costumes this weekend. Yay! Cried Lacey as she hugged her dad's waist. Thanks, Dad. Naruto kissed Lacey's forehead before he unlocked their house door and walked in. They had just returned from buying some groceries, and because they walked past the costume store, Lacey had begun firing her questions. Halloween was Lacey's favorite time of the year, even more so than Christmas and the New Year's Eve. Candy and chocolates are almost better than Christmas trees and fireworks. What are you going as, Annabeth? Annabeth grinned at her dad. I want to go as Lady Liberty. Naruto chuckled and kissed her forehead. That's perfect for you. Hey! Exclaimed Lacey as she pointed at their living room. What's that? Naruto looked over and immediately grew suspicious. There was a cardboard box in the middle of their living room and it was closed. No one had the key to enter their house and he didn't order anything that would appear into the box. He pushed his daughters behind his legs and walked to the box himself, wondering if he should kick at the box or something. But he was just glad he didn't when he opened it. Oh my gosh! Cried Lacey loudly as she was now in front of the contents of the box. It's so cute! As the little girls, with shaky hands, reached into the box and pulled out a small kitten in her arms. Its fur was as white as snow and had solid black eyes, and screamed innocent. It yawned in Lacey's arms and snuggled itself against her fluffy jacket, making her gush more and squeal. Annabeth also had star in her eyes when she saw another grey kitten in the box. She wasn't as excited as her little sisters, but she also gave a light squeal as she held the grey cutie in her arms. It had the same eyes as her sister's kitty, but it looked smarter and didn't laze around in her arms, was looking around with great curiosity. Thank you, Dad. Lacey greatly jumped into her dad's arms and snuggled into him, all the while crying out, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, Dad. You're the best dad in the whole world. Annabeth also hugged her dad and smiled up at him. Thanks, Dad. I have wondered if you would buy us some pets, but I didn't know you'd buy them for us so soon. I thought you wait until Christmas. Naruto chuckled nervously and nodded. It's okay, girls. You've both been really good and deserve it. He had wondered if someone had sneaked into their house, but when he saw that there was a small owl symbol drawn at the bottom of the box, he knew. Apparently, his prayers to the mothers of their children has been answered. Thank you, Athena, Aphrodite. Then his cell phone in the pocket rang. Hello? He said before pulling away from his daughter's hug, smiling at them as they ran on to the playing area with their kittens in their arms. This is Naruto Namikaze. Hello, Naruto. Naruto flinched at the voice. It reminded him of the lectures back in the university. Him getting into trouble with his favorite professor, but at the same time he felt extremely happy at hearing her voice again. It had been a very long time and he had wondered if he would ever hear that voice again. To be honest to himself, he had expected not to hear her ever again. Athena? A soft chuckle came from the other side. It's Miss Olympia, Naruto. Naruto could help but laugh at the nostalgia and nodded, yes ma'am. And don't call me ma'am. Athena gave a metallic laugh before continuing. So I assume that girls like their pets? Like isn't the world, he replied with a smile as he turned around to look at his daughter. More like they love and utterly adore it. That's good. Just hearing from her voice, Naruto could see the smile on the goddess's face. Aphrodite and I both chose the kittens personally. I know Annabeth would like the color grey and Aphrodite insisted on the white for lace. Naruto felt emotional and rubbed his eyes. So you watch over Annabeth? Of course I do, Naruto. Athena frowned and bit her lip. She is my daughter, Naruto. I love her and no matter where she is, I will watch over her. Thank you. I need you to do something for me now. Naruto focused against her words and made her to pay attention. Go to your bedroom, there's something for you as well. He wanted to ask more, but she spoke up again. Talk to you soon again, Naruto. The call was ended and Naruto felt his words die down in his mouth. But then he asked himself, what did he want to say? He didn't really know, but he wanted to say something to keep Athena on the line. Perhaps she knew and ended the call before he could say anything. After all, she had not spoken to him for a long time. Perhaps she only cared about Annabeth and he was the channel she could use to teach to his daughter. Naruto shook his head and closed his eyes. He didn't want to think about it. He headed up to the room. Every step of the stairways to the second floor was tough. Naruto didn't know what to expect. He had read about the gifts from the gods to the mountains of the books he had in his room, but he had no idea what Athena would left for him. Based on their past together, the one thing she would most likely give him was an essay assignment. His mind raced as he listed out the gifts as he had read in the books and pondered on the possibility that it may be something affectionate. He knew it was less than probably be, but Athena still thought about him in her mortal life and wanted to give him something to remind him of her. All the possibilities filled his mind, but they were all obliterated when he entered the room. Hello, Naruto. It was her. Still as stunning and brilliant as ever, she was wearing something fitting of her goddess stature. A pure white chiton with golden linings, as well as a bare-feeted goddess in front of her, with golden straps decorated in her black dresses. She smiled at him with affectionate look than he had ever seen her from. Her grey eyes danced with joy and slight amusement. She looked perfect. Naruto's eyes were ever so dazed before a moment before blinking and rubbing his eyes, making Athena frown a little bit. It's really me, Naruto. Athena? Naruto stared at her in shock as he slowly stepped closer to her. You're actually here. She nodded with a smile, feeling a little sad and guilty. I never thought I'd see you again. You may not often see me, but I constantly watch over you. She stepped closer to him and placed a hand on his cheek. Both you and Annabeth. Without thinking, Naruto wrapped his arms around Athena and pulled her closer. He had dreamed of doing this again to her. Athena again really made him realize that just how much he missed her. Missing her brilliance, her beautiful eyes, her warm aura, and her intimidating great eyes. He wanted to make sure he was really there and was tangible. He wanted to have her in his arms. She just felt the same as he had imagined. She was shorter than him, with her face leveled into his chest, and she had an amazing scent, and that reminded him of soft rose. I missed you. Athena was shocked. Other than her father, had no one ever hugged her so affectionately before. None of the other fathers of her children would dare touch her, much less hug her. She thought she would pull away from him, but she couldn't. All thought at the moment was how warm and peaceful it felt in his arms, and how loved she felt. Then she heard his words, I missed you. So simple yet so heavy. She had missed him over the years. She had wondered if he would be angry or resentful for her, but all those worries vanished the moment she felt his arms around her. Naruto gently pulled back from the hug, but still hands on her arms. I am... He didn't know what to say. He had thought of many things to say to either Athena or Aphrodite if they were ever to visit him, but none of them were coming to his mind. You don't have to say anything. I missed you too, she said with a smile. Really? Athena nodded, but Aphrodite and I would often watch you take care of Annabeth and Lacey, and we would smile every time. You're a great father, Naruto. She lightly traced his cheek as she spoke, making his heart flutter. It's a shame that you didn't pray to us for a long time, but we heard you long and loud and clear last night ago. Naruto smiled and nodded. Yeah, I understand that part. I have a gift for you, Naruto. Athena snapped her fingers and 2 items appeared before her, just hovering in the air. 1 golden watch and 1 golden ring. This is a gift that I have given Perseus thousands of years ago. She snaps her finger again and the watch magically appeared on Naruto's wrist. Try tapping the face of the watch. Naruto looked at the goddess and nodded before doing so. Whoa! The watch suddenly morphed into a golden shield, the size of a large catering platter, and had the face of Medusa embezzled on its face. Agesius? He whispered. Athena smiled. You've been reading. He smiled back and nodded. This is a version of my original Agesius. It is made out of the metal called Imperial Gold. It is very strong and durable. It will protect you from most, if not all, the monsters that will come for our daughter. She snapped her fingers again and the golden ring appeared on his pinky. Now try rubbing the side of the finger with your thumb. Oh my gods! As soon as he rubbed the ring, the golden spear appeared in his hands. It was taller than his person at about 8 feet. Its tip was brilliant gold and perhaps was more magnificent than its body. The part looked extremely deadly and had a gleam to it made Naruto feel excited. Imperial gold is pridefully metal. Huh. Naruto, its point will only pierce supernatural beings. It will not harm mortals. The spear will simply ignore simple mortals. You are the only human, normal, who could use it, since I have blessed you. Naruto looked at mother of his child in gratitude. Thank you, Athena. She looked her head with a frown on her face. I should have been sorry. That this is all I can do. The ancient laws prevent us from helping our children directly, so aiding you is the most I could do. Athena looked into Naruto's azure eyes as she spoke. Anathapeth is our daughter, and I love her, but I can only guide her from above. I cannot physically help her. It's all right. Naruto said, Anathapeth and Lacey are my life, and I will protect them no matter what. Athena smiled proudly. I know you will. I have downloaded some files onto your personal computer, and it includes my styles to use your spear. You can learn from there and give your brilliant mind to warfare and strategies. I'm sure you'll be able to protect our little girls. I promise that I will. Athena gave him a sad smile and knowingly leaned up to kiss him lightly on the cheek. The first kiss she ever gave him. I'm sorry for putting so much things on your shoulder, but my father Zeus is strict about these matters. Naruto gently wrapped his arms around Athena and nodded. I really understand. She looked up at him in the hug, their faces only an inch apart. Thank you, she whispered before she kissed him on the cheek again. Naruto knew that she would be leaving soon. She could tell by the look in her eyes. This might be the last time he would ever see Athena, the most important figure and the mother of his eldest daughter, and one of the 2 women he had loved. He decided to just say what he wanted. Athena. He started making her stare into his eyes. His hand slowly reached up and gently cupping his cheek. He felt her flinch a little, but decided to press on it, just this once. Will you allow me to kiss the mother of my child? Never in her immortal life Athena imagined that she would give such an answer. Yes. Then without any thought, he pressed his lips against her. Her lips were softer than he has imagined. They tasted sweet, a subtle sweet. He held her cheeks and softly caressed her flawless face as his other arm held her in place. He slowly moved his lips against hers and pressed further to add more pressure to it. He dared not initiate either before their lips touched, but to his even more shock, he left Athena lick his lips. All that inhibited him vanished in an instant, and he responded instantly. Sorry, there was someone in my room, and I was quite, it was quite awkward to see them just staring at me like, what the hell are you reading and what is going on? Okay, enough about that. Back to the story. Just sorry, it was quite awkward for me. All that inhabited him vanished in an instant, and he responded in slightly. His tongue snaked out and immediately made contact with Athena's. The merely thought of made him weak in the knees. If she tasted subtly sweet before, she tasted like honey now. He wrestled her tongue with his, and he pulled her closer, holding her tightly against his chest. He didn't know how much time has passed, but he couldn't care. All that he wanted to do was now enjoy the kiss as much as he could and make it last long as it could. So it would ran until they ran out of the breath, and that he slowly parted their lips. He quickly breathed again and repeatedly planted a series of small kisses on Athena's lips. His heart skipping a beat every single time they made contact, but he knew that he had to stop. He rested his forehead against her and opened his eyes. Wow. Then he saw her eyes and the tears welling up. He grew concerned immediately and was about to ask, but she cut him off. She kissed him again and wrapped her arms around him by the neck. She repeated back on his lips and tenderly as she could before she pulled away. She was panting and her arms were still tangled around his neck. Her forehead was once again resting against his. Some tears escaped her eyes as she started to look at Naruto in shock and confusion, but affectionate and loving eyes. I love you, Naruto. Never forget that. She started to glow as she pulled away from the hug, and it was getting brighter and brighter by the second. Naruto was still holding on to her hand and smiled at her. I'll never forget. I love you too. That was a bright flash, and Athena turned into her divine form and vanished from the room in a brilliant beacon of light. Leaving Naruto alone in his room, there was still a smile on his face as he looked down at the new watch and ring, relishing at the fact that Athena watched over them and loved them. I'll never forget about you, Athena. Daddy! Daddy! He rubbed his eyes as a bright smile appeared on him. It appeared that his daughters had finally noticed that he was gone from the living room. He heard the rumbling footsteps running up the stairs. He watched as his 2 girls burst into the room with their new pets in their arms. Lacey jumped and into his arms as Annabeth hugged him from the side. Naruto kissed and smiled at both of them. What is it, girls? Lacey hugged her white kitty and rubbed her face with his. I named my kitty Toothless. Her father just laughed and looked at the other one. I named mine Einstein. Annabeth looked proud with the name she has chosen and given and looked at her dad to grin at her. Perfect, he said with a smile and hugged both the daughters close. Just perfect. As this is where I'm going to be leaving today's story off, guys. Hope you like this one, and if you do, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. As this is Apollo, and I'm signing off for the day. Peace!